Let's try to keep this short before the sun moves to a place where I can't actually look at you. So let's get going. This is my review for Handmaid's Tale, and I read this edition, which is the cheapest one I could find, because I thought that I wouldn't like the book, so I didn't want to spend too much on it. So let's see if I was right to be a Scrooge or not. I made a list of things that I liked and didn't like, so this would be quick and I wouldn't waste any of your time. And the first thing I liked about the book was that it was written in 1984, so I could really see how it has influenced other books and even some stories that I've read online, and how the topic that it handled has been revamped and written over and over again. Yes, I could understand how it has influenced other books, especially how it described the role of the women. The second thing that I liked was that it really was a woman's perspective. So most of the book took place in a environment where the characters were only women. The main protagonist was a woman, and it felt very feminine. So a lot of the times when I'm reading books, it's very male-centered. Often the even when the characters are female, it doesn't seem like they are really women. It's from men's perspective that they're displayed, so it doesn't feel right, but this felt very feminine. Well, maybe that's not the right word, but it felt like a woman's world, even though it was not so kind to women. Third thing that I liked was that it had really good descriptions. So the descriptions of things, of feelings, of the stillness that the main protagonist felt, and how the only sensations that she could feel was the clothes, her own skin, the food, but all the other things that we are usually bombarded by, they weren't there for her, so she really took in everything that was available for her, and I really enjoyed the descriptions on that. Skip over to things I didn't like, and the first thing I didn't like was that some of the later things that happened in the book felt like the author thought that, oh, okay, so nothing has changed, that this status quo will continue on being, this can't be, people will get bored. They threw in this party at the hotel and meeting Moira again, which could have been handled differently, I think, but I don't know how. But I'm not gonna get into it. Maybe I can elaborate in the comments down below. And the whole romance with Nick felt really odd for me as well. It felt like, oh, I have to amp it up somehow, or I think the author didn't go as far as she could have. She should have trusted that the readers, or at least me, will be on the trip as far as she can take us. You don't have to just make action happen. I had trouble with the timeline. So I didn't understand when was the coup and when was the main timeline happening. So how far apart were these two things? Was it 3 years? Was it 6 years? Was it 10 years? I think 10 years is a bit too much. They did say that, oh, things happen so quick, and the human body is so, or human mind is so adaptable that it doesn't matter, it will adapt quickly. But it still felt, how did they build this all up? This is what I questioned, and this was one of the things that made it for me a bit harder to believe, or harder to get into, because I couldn't really make sense of the timeline for myself. I also didn't like the the parts that had anything sexual in it. I know it sounds weird, and I'm not a prude, and I realized that the sexual acts that took part were supposed to make you feel uncomfortable and detached from your body, as the main character felt. But I still didn't like it, and I didn't like the commander getting closer to Offred, the main protagonist, and I don't know. I'm not really all that comfortable about reading sexuality lately, and this just struck me the wrong way, and this was one of the reasons why I didn't want to start it. Everything to do with pregnancy and insemination and using this kind of language, it made me feel uncomfortable, and I think it made me feel even more uncomfortable than the author wanted me to be. But that's my problem. That about rounds up things I didn't like. Let's bring it back to what I did like. I think the best thing for me was the ending, because as a historian, well, no, as a history nerd, maybe, I'm not a historian, but as a person who has studied history and whose profession is connected to it, I felt really happy about it, because there were two stories actually. There was this story about Handmaid's Tale, and then there was this story about how it could be possibly viewed from the future, 150 years from the future. And this is the kind of thing that you always happen upon in history, the dichotomy of what the text has intended to be and what the historians make it out to be. So it's always really hard to really grasp the full meaning of it in its time and how it was intended, because we don't know. We can only look back, and our experiences and our cultural experiences and how we have been brought up and how we look back into the history, because we always look back like these people were before us, so they had less knowledge, maybe they weren't maybe so highly involved, or they made mistakes. Oh, those stupid mistakes that they did. I think this all plays a role. I don't know where this sentence started, but I hope you understand that as a history source, whatever we use is problematic, and it has millions of ways where it can go wrong. And this is why I like this ending, because I was really fascinated by the society and how the conference was written, because it's exactly how the conferences in history go, and all the small jokes and dog, please stop. I just really liked it. That was the best part for me, and I would like to read more about that society 150 years in the future, where obviously the world is different, the countries are different, the race is as a whole is different. So yes, okay, the sun is really coming into my eyes, and it's making me harder. I hope this squinty video is okay for you. But what I wanted to say was that I first became aware of Margaret Atwood because I read this book, which is Power by Naomi Alderman. When in this book women are repressed, then in this book women really get the power, hence the title. And they get a power in a sense that they gain electricity that they have in their body and that they can use as a weapon, but they also gain power in a sense that the complete the society that has been male dominated, not in a well, like it is right now, not like it's in Handmaid's Tale, but the society completely flips. Two read books, and both interesting. I like this one more. It didn't have this suppressive feel about it. I appreciate reading this. I think it really gives some good knowledge and depth to what I already thought of dystopias, and where where the stories that I enjoy now come from. Thing that I wanted to say was that even though it was written in 1984, I feel that it's even more current than it was then. Does that make sense? Yes. I'll leave with that thought. Please do discuss. Do you agree with me? Is it more current right now than it was in 1984? Does it feel current? Because it does feel current for me. That was my review. Okay, I really can't see anymore, and my Zoom is doing weird things. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the comments.